The January 2021, can't believe it, Park Board meeting to order. First thing on our agenda are the minutes from the last meeting. Has anyone got any changes or any corrections or see any omissions that we need to clarify first?
I would move to approve the minutes.
I'll second this, Brokaw.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to pass
Thank
the
you.
minutes. All those signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried. Deb, do we have anybody from the audience that you want to have come on first ahead of what you had on the agenda?
You can go with the concessions agreement. I believe Dave O'Brien's here for that. And then if you wanted to go down to Vine Street and then the ball structure, so I guess
Sure.
It's up to you. The other one shouldn't take long anyhow.
Well, let's do him and then
Okay.
we've got the concession agreement done.
Yep. Okay.
So, Mike, you want to
Yeah,
lead into it?
Yep. So the first item that you have in front of you tonight is to approve the concessions agreement with the Hudson Boosters for operation of concessions at Grandview Park. This is our annual concession agreement that we sign with the Hudson Boosters, which gives them permission to operate out of the concession facility. It identifies our responsibilities, their responsibilities, so on and so forth. But then it further goes on to say that the city will receive 6% of all gross revenue from the Hudson Boosters, which will go back into the Parkland dedication funds and use for future upgrades to the facility, whatever that may be. And staff is recommending approval for this agreement.
Is there any discussion? Does anybody have any concerns after having read about it and now hearing it?
I would just like to say, I don't have any concerns with the basic agreement, but I will say that in the very paragraph, you address it as for the 2020 season. The last line in the first paragraph. In the body, you've got it right.
Oh, there's
the
an
dates
edit.
are right.
Yeah, I see it. The eye of an editor.
Okay.
Good one.
But the dates are right further on, so.
Okay. I
Thank you,
will get
Karen.
that corrected.
Thank you.
I'll get that corrected. Thanks.
Any further discussion or we still need a motion?
I would move to approve.
And so she didn't like him like right off the bat, Robinson.
I second.
It's been moved and
Second is
seconded.
who? I'm sorry. Who's second?
Karen Stankovic.
Think of it.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Oh, nothing to be sorry for. This is confusing.
It's confusing.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, the chair will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 I heard another aye in there. Motion. All those against? Motion carried. The next item we have, Mike, is a fees
Yeah,
for boat launch.
Let's just run. Yeah, we'll just run through the agenda as it stated.
Yeah.
Like Deb said, these won't take very long. So the next agenda is just a review of the 2020 boat launch details. So in your packet is just a spreadsheet of what was collected down at the Lakefront Park boat launch for the 2020 season. As you can see, total amounts collected was $66,376.66. This revenue is deposited back into the general fund for operations. So it doesn't get deposited into Parkland dedication or anything like that. It just goes back in the general. So I just wanted to make the board aware of what happened down there this season. Obviously, it was a busy season. With COVID, a lot of people getting out on the river. It's one of our highest, if not the highest. We looked back at old records from 2010, Deb and I, and this is the highest that we found since 2010. So it was a great year, and like I said, look forward to another good year next year. So any questions from the board on that?
The one I had when looking at it, that came up was I'd have no history on how those funds ended up going to the general fund. But if it's something we may want to look at, do we want to earmark those funds for improvements down there? We know we've got things coming up like the boardwalk and those things. We're redoing the boat launch and all that. Do we want to earmark those funds? Can we earmark those funds to stay there is my only question.
Yeah.
It'd be nice.
Okay. Yeah, I can ask the question.
Yeah.
So, and any other questions from the board on that item? All right.
So
Hearing
we
none,
need a
then I'll-
motion to approve your fees?
Nope, it's just
Okay.
more of a just a review, just to keep the board in the loop.
Okay.
So.
And for the
th-
board members that may not recollect, our fees for boat launches are set by what the state of Wisconsin charges at the state parks and at their launches. So we have to stay within those guidelines.
Correct. All right, so we'll move into item C, which is review the park dedication funds. I'm going to make a point of doing this on a quarterly basis for the park board. I probably won't do it every month, but I'll throw, our updated spreadsheet every quarter just to keep you in the loop as far as what is in that fund, and answer any questions that you might have. So obviously, if we're looking at it, the total that we have in the park dedication fund 280 is $598,223.26. Now with that, for some of the board members that are new, there's two separate trust funds. There's a trust fund north of I-94 and a trust fund south of I-94. And I know, Pat, with the history that you've had, you tried to use some of the funds from the south to go to the north, so on and so forth. But our attorney is very strict on those expenses if we do use them.
We were able to do it in the past for community-wide when we did it for Grandview.
Okay.
It made sense because it was for the entire community. Neighborhood south of 94 were going to benefit from that usage, and it was inclusive, not exclusive in that way. But yeah,
right.
and there's got to be a really, really, really good reason to be able to split that, as I understand it. Yep.
So as you'll note, the Park Trust A, which is north of 94, all those monies have been encumbered to go towards the Grandview Pavilion and restroom facility that's going to be completed here this spring. The Park Trust Fund B, which is south of 94, has a healthy balance, $450,304.18. And as we begin the process of updating our park plan in 2021, because the old one expired in 2020, we'll have to keep this number in mind with any future planning, things that the park board would like to prioritize, so on and so forth. So it's a good bit of money to get some things and some park amenities added to the south side of town.
And we have that new parkland over by where the dog track was.
Yep. Yeah, there'll be some land that'll be dedicated through the recent developments to the city, so that fund will help with development of those parcels. The other thing to touch base on is, a couple things. Boat mooring, $76,737 in that fund, and then the lakefront concessions is sitting at $5,157. So, like I said, I'm going to add this every quarter just to answer any questions that you might have and to keep you in the loop as far as what funds we have available. So any questions on that?
I don't. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not a waste of time to prepare it.
Yeah.
My only question, Mike, well, thanks for sharing this. My only question just is we don't really see the expenditure side. Is that something where when we're making the plan for the future for parks, then we could draw on that that $450,000 or $500,000 basically, because it seems like a larger number than I thought it would have been, which is great news. So,
Oh, I think your point is well taken. To have those plans to where we worked on last time of putting priority in what year and what category to see how those match up, and to make any adjustments to that while we're doing our long range plan. No, that was a good suggestion.
And we can maybe try to incorporate projections. Obviously, that is dictated by the housing market and the economy in general. But I can put in there a rough estimate as far as like what we collect each year, just so that when we are projecting out, when we do the park plan, the board has that information as well. So point taken. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
So that's all I have on that, Mr. Chair.
Okay. The next item we have is the temporary structure to go out to Sledding Hill. That kind of a takeoff on a little post office. We're going to have a little sled deposit.
Guys, is Emily Mandel on here?
Yes, I am, and I wanted to just take the opportunity to first thank Deb for kind of helping support and getting me onto this. I am Emily Mandel. I'm a Hudson resident, and I am here in support of a Vine Street sled structure proposal that would essentially mimic a little free library model. We have so many little free libraries in Hudson, and I just happened to be looking on social media one day, and somebody had posted a photo of a little free lending library for sleds. And I was sledding with my family and saw that this could potentially be a great opportunity for us to have a similar model on the Vine Street Hill that would be, I think in my proposal I'd indicated for it to be placed on the corner of Cole Street and 10th Street and just kind of be a structure that would be accessible to the community and would also kind of assist and support those who are looking for additional recreational opportunities outdoors within COVID.
Thank you. It's a great idea.
Thank you for your consideration and for your time. I appreciate it.
Wow.
Mike, I have a question on this. I think it's a great idea. I think it looks like a lot of fun. Is there any liability concerns on the city on having something like this, or is the city immune from the liability?
Yeah, the city has recreational immunity in this instance. The only time that we're liable is if, we're purposely trying to set up a situation that'll harm an individual, or we neglect to take care of an issue that is pointed out to us by the community. So in this case, we wouldn't be liable for anything as long as it's out of the path of the sledders. And if you're placing it on the corner of Cole and 10th, it's everything funnels away from that area, so it's actually the perfect location to put something like that.
Okay.
And my only concern is to really be able to secure it so the trolls and the mutants don't destroy it at night. Because it will get drug over on the hillside and used as a prop to build stuff out, and it'll be turned into a jump in a week.
Mm-hmm. And that would be a concern that I have as well, and I would hope that the board would also consider that. I'm also a little free library proprietor myself, and so I've seen that there's some good, and there's certainly good stewards out there, but I also am very mindful that it could, within, as you had mentioned, within a week's time, it could grow legs and move away. And I would hope that wouldn't be the case, but it's certainly worth discussing.
Mike, could we freeze it to the ground?
If it stays 40 degrees, we're not going to. But,
yeah, that's true. But there won't be sledding either. But
I guess what I would say,
chain it to a tree.
Yeah, we could chain it to a tree. I mean, we can try it, and if we notice that the kids are dragging it around, we can go to plan B, which would be chain it to the tree. And if we still have problems with it being moved, then at that point, maybe we need to just scrap the idea. As much as I don't want to, right? Maybe it's just not the right fit, but at least let's give it a chance.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Good.
And
so where would the sleds that are in the enclosure come from?
I think I would be willing to donate some, as well as just monitoring the social media feed of which this kind of grew from. There's a number of people that would be interested in donating sleds. And I've worked with Consuelo Negrete, another fellow Hudson resident, and he's put together a prototype of which I shared with you that would be able to essentially fit the saucers, the longer sleds, and the foam sleds. So it could have a multifunctional use.
Cool. I go ahead.
That this would be gone in the summer. Is this going to be there all year round, or?
I would anticipate that it could be stored, and that would be another question for consideration that I would ask the board, where a potential place could be that we could store this.
I give up.
Yeah.
It's a small,
yeah.
I'll comment on that. It's obviously a smaller structure. I mean, it's nothing that we can't. I mean, we have the building at the end of St. Croix Street, which was historically tenanted by the Hudson Boosters, which is now empty. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's completely empty right now. We can put it. I mean, we have places to store a structure like this.
So Emily, I want to thank you for bringing this forward. I think it's super well-intended and really community-minded. I do share Karen's concern over liability to the city. I actually think at this point, I wouldn't mind tabling this and running it by our city attorney. Just because I'm a little nervous if we provide sleds. Let's say kids go there, they're unsupervised by parents or something, somebody gets hurt. I just feel like, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like the city is potentially liable by, you know, providing a sled or something. I don't want to make too big a deal out of it, but I do want to get a professional advice of our city attorney before I would feel comfortable kind of moving forward with it. Does that make sense, Mike? Or is that something we could run by Karen?
Can you, I mean, in a motion to approve it, you could do it contingent on review by the city attorney and approval by the city attorney. And it's going to go to city council regardless for final approval. So anything that she would find that would be the problem would be caught between the park board and council.
Paul, why don't you put that in your motion?
I actually want to table it. I would move to table it and first get the advice of the city attorney. Not trying to be like the wet blanket here, but I just think we need that. I think it's wise for the city to get that before we would move forward with it.
I appreciate that very much, Paul. Thank you for sharing that.
Then Paul, would you want it to come back to park board next month for review and approval at that time?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then I think we would move forward. I just think it's best to get that clarified before we, you know, I feel strange voting on a motion where I don't know to approve when I really don't know what the legal ramifications are. And I just want to clarify, like if it is truly not additional liability to the city, then I think it's, you know, great. But if it puts us in a situation where it could potentially harm the city, then I think we have to, you know, be aware of that as sort of stewards of the city too. So I just want that legal advice because, like I said, I'm not a lawyer. So.
So is there a second to the motion to table?
I'll second it. This is Broca.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to table to the next meeting and have our city attorney give us an opinion beforehand. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm going to say aye along with you, Paul, just because I don't want to see us be in a point 2 years from now where we're faced with something, somebody got hurt and we didn't check.
Mm-hmm.
We just, in today's society, we don't dare. And to postpone it a month, hopefully we'll have snow by then. Yeah. So I'll vote with you on that. I support that.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to at least bring this up, and also thank you for your consideration. And I'll, yeah,
We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Deb, especially
Yep.
for you.
Yep, you bet.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily. It's really nice to see people come up with good ideas like that to want to do things in the park for people.
I agree. It's too bad that we have to be worried about liability, but I work in insurance and I see it all the time. We just do.
No, we got to be cautious that way. And that's why we have her, right?
Yep.
I'm trying to scroll back up to the agenda, my old memory to what was after the Grandview. Oh, our meeting schedule.
Yep,
we
meeting
have
schedule for
coming up for 2021.
Yep. So I did this with Public Works Committee last night, and I'm gonna do it with Park Board tonight, just so that I have the board review it and get it on their calendar. But historically, the Park Board has met the first Tuesday of every month, and I laid out the dates for you. There are some anomalies with some holidays and so on and so forth, and council being pushed around, but where we had to push the Park Board back, you know, a week. But just looking for a motion and approval of the schedule as presented. Obviously, it can be changed if we do run into situations where we don't have a quorum or people are going to be gone, but at least we get a tentative schedule out there and down on the calendar.
Question, Mike, on November 2nd. I don't think, and Deb, I don't think that's an election year, right? So that wouldn't be a conflict with the first Tuesday. Because it's
Correct.
2021. I'm guessing that. I just want to make sure that's right. So.
Yep, you're right.
Hey guys, if I could just bring up that Plan Commission is now in that same night every month.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes a difference for you, but just so you know.
Nate, what time are they starting? Do you know?
At 6.
Yeah.
We're usually done before 6, though. I feel
We
like.
usually are.
Is that the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday, Nate?
First and third.
Mhm.
Oh, I thought they were going to one a month. I thought they were going to one a month. Pat, do you know? Plan Commission?
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
I got
Well,
it, but
I've heard some talk about that they were
going
maybe
to
only
one,
going to
but
go.
I haven't heard it finalized.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll work around it, I guess.
I would move to approve the dates as listed.
I second it. This is Karen Stankovitz.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, the chair will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried. Next item you have, Mike, is go down to our old business, which is Grandview and Burton Park ball fields and what we have for our projected fee structure for them now.
Yep. So this is brought back to the board based on the conversations that we had at our last meeting. I made some changes, and one thing that I want to mention before we get into this is, a couple of things. One is there are people on this call that have direct interest in this topic. So, Chair, I'll leave that up to you if you want to have them speak at some point in time and share their concerns. The second thing is I accidentally omitted the school district from the priority classes, and I heard that, well, I should have known, but the Hudson School District utilizes Grandview Park for their varsity and JV program in the spring, just because the Hudson School District doesn't have a designated softball field for them. So they do use Grandview Park for some practices and games from time to time. And they, it's my recommendation that we put them back in there. So as a higher priority, just because, it's the school district and, they're dependent upon having those fields available for them. They'll use one, maybe two fields, but just so that the board is aware. The other thing that I want to point out is, what is on the priority classes is, I'm not so much talking about the fees right now, but it's priorities is, what's on paper in front of you or in your packet is basically what we have been doing over the last several years since I've been here, at least, is, it was kind of a handshake, gentleman's agreement that Adult Softball Association had the first pick of the litter, and then it was the Hudson Boosters, and then it was everybody after that. So what you see in front of you is basically what we've been doing, and we can discuss the validity of that. I did include some literature that I had received from the Hudson Boosters. I also sent out an email this afternoon from the Sandpiper Softball Association, which is another local sports association that uses our facility. So obviously there's a lot of teams and a lot of youth out there that use Grandview Park as their main facility, and just want to make you aware of everything in all sides and all points of view. So with that, I'm open to any questions, any dialogue. Mr. Chair, I'll leave it up to how you want to proceed.
Oh, if we have someone here from any of the organizations that want to speak, I think we should hear from them. So since boosters are one of our priority groups, we'll start with them. And if there's someone from the boosters who'd like to speak, please, let's hear from them.
Mr. Chairman, this is Dave O'Brien from the Hudson Boosters. I put together some of the supporting documentation that I forwarded to Mike that I believe is attached at the bottom of the meeting here. Hudson Boosters, particularly the softball, has enjoyed the use of Grandview over the past many years. As you know, Boosters have been in the neighborhood of Hudson since the early 50s. And just in the past few years, since 2016, the hot softball portion of Hudson Boosters has donated over $45,000 worth of improvements toward Grandview, because that really is the home of booster softball. So we appreciate your consideration in the matter, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Does anyone have any for them at this time? Other than thank you for what you guys do for the city. I don't have any.
There's no concern about where they fall in the priority, right?
Not in. Mike, have you had any problems with that? I haven't heard any.
No.
Thank you for what you guys do. I don't hear any other questions coming up. If there's nothing in particular, Mike, that you have on that, is there any other group present that we should hear from at this time?
Hi there, I'm Aaron Haskins. I'm part of the Sandpiper organization, I guess. I'm the representative for tonight. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Having a hard time.
Okay.
Let me get a little closer then.
Thank you.
Can see my wrinkles. All right. I forwarded some information to Mike and Deb. I believe they got some points of interest that we, I guess, wanted to bring to the table. The tier system that you guys have established is, I understand and I respect it and I get it. I just have a few questions on where we stand. And based on the amount of kids that we have from Hudson, I feel that we should be a high priority up on the priority list, I guess is what you would say. Right now we have 5 teams, softball teams. We have 63 players. 56 of them are from Hudson. So 90% of them are Hudson kids. Parents are taxpayers.
What age group?
From 10 to 16.
Okay.
16U. Yeah. So, so we have a large number of softball girls that are participating in this. And then the seven girls that are from out of town have played in Hudson fall ball in the past. So they've been part of the Hudson softball as well. So I guess our biggest concern is the tier system and where we fall in this. I know in the paperwork here I sent over, our name is the Sandpipers, and we go under it's called the Cage. It was in Somerset. They just relocated to Hudson on Bear Drive. It's kind of up by where Duro Bag is. So he is technically a profit organization, but we operate under him as a not-for-profit organization. So if we charge our kids $650 each, and let's just say we have $100 extra, that money goes directly back to the parents and the players. So we act as a not-for-profit organization. We're not out to make money. We want to give our girls a fair opportunity to be on a team, which they deserve to be on. And take a lot of the politics out of it, I guess is our goal. And we do a lot more off-season training, and do a lot of other things that aren't available to these kids. So I guess the biggest thing is, where do we sit in the tiers? We're also concerned a little bit about where we stand, I guess, and then the overbooking by other organizations and the usage, like for example, bringing in-house little kid softball up to Grandview just to use the fields, to plug the fields up, where they predominantly have been in North Hudson for as long as I've coached softball, which has been probably 10 years. And then with the baseball stuff, they got fields all over that they've been using. For younger kids up there, they could use it. 75-foot bases, those infields aren't going to accommodate older kids. So I guess those are some of my concerns.
Hey, Aaron, quick question for you.
Yeah.
So on the priority list, So priority number 3 says other local nonprofit youth organizations serving groups with 85% Hudson child youth participation. So your organization wouldn't fall in that priority list, that priority category?
Yeah, I would think
Okay.
it would. That's what
Yeah.
we're shooting for,
Yeah.
I guess, Mike.
Yeah, that's what I assumed. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and then we just got a couple other questions. One of the guys brought up, does the priority system only apply to the reservation process? For example, if let's say one of our teams is up there using the batting cage, and another organization that's higher on the priority list comes up there and says, we're priority 1, you got to get out. How is that going to be governed, or how is that going to work? Because I can honestly see that happening in the future.
Okay.
Just based on what has happened in this last 6 to 8 months.
Okay. I guess my gut reaction, my initial reaction, and the board, I mean, you can chime in on this, but the priority list is specifically to the field use only. I mean, we can't, it's hard to just prioritize the fields and then all of a sudden we're having to prioritize the batting cages, so on and so forth. And I guess that was my assumption, that the fee structure is specifically for the field use.
For the field, yeah.
Yeah.
So we would fall under priority number 3, since we have 90% Hudson residents participating.
So you'd be able, that would entitle you to be able to reserve fields and be in that selection process of what fits your schedule and to be able to do.
Perfect.
The issues with the batting cages, I don't know how that's solved.
Yeah, and that's impossible. I mean, it's just being courteous and respectful to the people that are around, and but like I said, there's been some issues with courtesy and stuff like that, and people, yeah. So I'm just a heads up, and I know that's impossible for you guys to patrol and govern, and I guess that was just one of the questions that one of the guys brought up that they wanted to bring to your attention.
I do have a question. So it does sound like you'd fall under priority 3, but do you have the documentation? Because it looks like there's documentation that's required to fall under priority 3. So while it sounds like you do you have all the certificates and stuff to be like, because we're saying that you have to show that. So is that going to be a problem?
So like what kind of certificates?
Certificate of insurance, the proof of a 5013C.
So all that, so I guess going back up here where as a nonprofit, so we have to apply and get a nonprofit label put on us, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, according to the documentation you do.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we have insurance through USA Softball. We're going to have insurance through NAFA Softball. We're going to have all the insurance. What, I guess what's the huge deal about having the certification of a nonprofit? I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a valid question, Aaron, and it's, for-profit versus nonprofit. I guess historically, Pat, you can chime in, but the city has catered to the nonprofit organizations, and I don't know why.
Ahead of other groups that were not nonprofit and were not local, who wanted to come in and rent and be able to use the facilities, and especially at a time when softball was far more popular.
No, and I understand that. And we can show you our books and whatever we have to do, but for us to get, it's a lot of work for us to get a nonprofit label on us, and I don't understand the legal aspect or the benefit for you guys of having us have to do that. I mean, we're willing to open our books. We'll show you our books, whatever we got to do. And I guess if we have to go get for nonprofit label put on us, we will. But I guess, I don't know. And one of my questions on the sheet, why are profit or nonprofit organizations discriminated against on this? So, and that's just a question. I'm not questioning your authority. I'm learning too.
Yeah.
Well,
Mike, I say that's got to be a question for the city attorney or our manager. I mean, it's not one for us to make the call on.
Well, but I just want to interject here. I think the idea is that we're making some policy choices to favor nonprofits over for-profits because they're public fields.
Yeah.
So we don't want the public fields necessarily to be used by private groups who are making money off them as the highest priority. It's a policy decision, and I think the board and the city makes to use those fields to groups that are nonprofits. I think the easiest thing for you, Aaron, is to try to apply for that nonprofit status, and then I think you would be in that category 3 from what I'm understanding from the conversation.
Even if we show proof that we have 90% of our kids are Hudson residents, taxpayers, and we'll open our books and show you everything. I mean,
I think according to the criteria, if you look at the next page, it's specifically asking for the 501c3 filing.
Yeah.
And all the tax documents that go with that.
Yep.
The 490.
That's why I'm here,
and we can't make that distinction
Nope.
or exclusion for some. Can't do one different than someone else.
Nope, gotcha, Pat. No, I get you. So, nope, that's why I came here and I'm asking questions. And no, I totally respect that. You got to be consistent, and you got to be consistent with everybody. So.
And we want you to have a seat at the table.
Yep, exactly.
Mike, I have a question. This is really the priorities come into place when people are reserving it, right? So the first people that get to reserve it is the Hudson Adult Softball Association. This is how we've always run it. We've just never really had it in writing from what you're saying. So is there just a concern because of how this year is with, just how different everything is? Is that the concern? Because it doesn't sound like we've had a problem with that in the past, right? So Aaron, you've never had a problem getting the fields, and we've done it this way prior, right, Mike? Or am I wrong?
So, I mean, there's been some new teams that have been developed over the last couple of years that have put pressure on the field, and then it was amplified last summer when COVID, we were in the pandemic and Minnesota was closed down, and yet Wisconsin was opened up, and we were getting a lot of requests from across the river to come over and use our ball fields. And it's like, we got to get something down on paper. Otherwise, this is going to be an ongoing problem. That's what led to this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, and then what's the timeline? I know, is March 1st still kind of the deadline which you guys are going to take requests for fields, or how's that looking?
Yep.
So per the agreement, if it's approved tonight, I will contact all the local organizations that have utilized our fields before and just let them know that here is the new standards moving forward, and we'll still move forward with the March 1st deadline.
And I mean, I brought this up earlier, but the question of how do you guys determine what teams can go up there? Because I can see an organization taking these little tiny in-house kids that are like 4, 5, 6, 7 that don't need a humongous field and having them play on Grandview just despite other organizations because they got a skiff with us or whatever.
I don't know that there are any organizations listed in the priorities that have an interest in doing that.
Yeah.
Well,
we've also always kind of have always said, whatever you had last year, that's what you get this year, kind of first, and then you fill in all the blanks. I mean, I know last year was a little bit different, but we've never had that young up there at all. I mean, but I think 10 is the youngest, right? 10? I don't know.
There's in-house kids they start at 5 with baseball and softball, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'm not aware that anybody's ever.
There are other fields than Grandview, and that's what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. This priority is for Grandview.
Okay. I mean, so will you accommodate requests for those young kids at Grandview?
Hudson Boosters won't be making requests for 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds, 7 or 8-year-olds.
Okay. Thanks, Amanda.
Yep.
All right. No, so, well, we got some homework to do, and I appreciate your time. I think I've pretty much asked all the questions I had to ask, and yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Deb, quick question for you.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Deb, quick question for you. And I know this is, you know, a lot of youth sports organizations, a lot different than when I grew up, right? It was led by the school or the city, right? And we rode our bikes to the field and we played during the day. Well, now it's more parent led, and obviously parents are off of work and at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that's where the pressure comes in the field. So, Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean the fields are fairly open from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it's hard with parent schedules and all that stuff and coaching and so on and so forth, but I mean, it's challenging. I mean, there's just a lot of youth, right? And Grandview's only 4 fields, and obviously, you know, North Hudson has some fields, Town of Hudson has fields, Town of Troy. So we're trying to use all of our facilities to serve the kids in the school district. So.
One last question for you guys. What kind of evidence do we need to show you with team rosters to justify that it's an actual team? Do we have to send you? Is that what you're going to require? Is sending rosters with address, or what are you thinking, Mike? I know that's a little above and that's great.
I would hope that, and maybe my hope is in the wrong place, but I'm hopeful that the organizations are truthful and won't abuse and you know, be honest with their numbers that they're saying that they're not pulling. But maybe, I mean, if we run into issues, then I don't want to have to take that step, because Deb has a lot enough to do right now than to review rosters and addresses and confirm addresses.
Yeah.
I mean, but if it does, I would just say let's go with what we have on the paper and have good faith in the organizations that they're being truthful. And if we do hear of situations where they're not, then we'll have to bring it back to park board and make some adjustments.
Well, I'm just bringing that up because last summer there was some issues with some made up teams, made up times to clog those fields up for other teams not to be able to use it. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen in the future, but it happened last summer, even with the few amount of teams that were participating. So just curious at this.
All right. Thanks, Aaron.
Yep. Thanks everybody. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye.
Hey, Deb, 2 quick typos, just real quick.
Yeah.
On page 23 under where it says policies.
Mm-hmm.
I just caught these. Sorry. On number two and point 3. Yes, number 2 says where it says submitted. You just want to take that 3 out of there, I think.
Yep.
Oh, do you see that? I'm sorry, I don't see it.
Policies point 2 where it says field requests are to be submitted by March 1st.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then the next line where it says no team may reserve a field time more than 3 days.
Yeah.
So just a couple quick typos. I like the structure. I want to affirm Mike and the staff for kind of putting this together. I think the priority, makes sense. And I think we're moving from kind of like you said, Mike, the handshake agreements to formalizing it, which I think is always going to be an adjustment for groups, and there might be some bumpy spots on that. But I would move to approve the Grandview Burton fees as presented, with the exception of the school district on category 1, because I think we need to put that in the motion because it's not on the piece of paper there.
Yes.
So that would be my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Karen Nesset.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair will call the question then. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I think it's going to be good to have it, and we can always use, they've got to play well together in order to maintain their ranking in the priorities. If one organization is abusing it to the detriment of the others, then that needs to be adjusted, but we can't make Debbie the commissioner of softball.
It's a big sandbox. Everybody can play in the sand together.
Yep. One would hope.
Yeah.
They're being good examples of kids, right? I'm searching for back to my agenda. There we go.
Project updates.
Yeah, project updates was next.
Yeah, so the only thing that I'll talk about is let's talk about the skating rinks. We've been getting a lot of phone calls, and I don't know. I know Pat's been receiving some phone calls too, and the mayor and council members, and so I just want to update the board. I mean, it's not for a lack of trying on our part. I mean, we have staff down there flooding in the mornings trying to make ice. Obviously, this last week has just been detrimental. We were almost there for last weekend to open them up, and it's bad. I mean, I got a picture today from my staff person, and half the ice is gone from the hockey rink, and same thing goes for just the open rink. So, I mean, we'll continue to try. It's not for a lack of trying. I will say that the new board system that'll be going in this spring will help, because there'll be class 5, which is crushed rock as a base, which is a lot more conducive to flooding than limestone and grass. And then the other thing too that I would venture to say is I might look into hiring. There's companies around that maintain backyard rinks, so on and so forth, that have reached out to me about helping out, and I might consider, depending upon how much they cost, bring them in for a night shift. You know, whether it be starting at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock when kids are skating, and putting down layers of ice overnight too. So, you know, I know it's a really popular thing to do, and we'll get there. This year has just been a struggle, just like last year. I just don't.
It was so warm going into Christmas that we couldn't get any ice made before Christmas.
It was 40 degrees. It was 40 degrees on December 23rd. I mean, some of the ground wasn't even frozen yet. We went down there and kicked around the dirt. So, I mean, and then the holidays and the snowstorms, and so, I mean, like I said, we're trying our darndest to get some ice for the kids to skate on. So just want to let you guys know.
Yeah. I have.
So that's all. Yep, that's all I got for project updates. And then Pat, I'll just touch base on future agenda items. I do have the memorial policy on there as a placeholder for discussion at next month's meeting. And then what I'd like to add too is maybe just some brief discussion on the park plan, and maybe outline the timeline and schedule for the park board to discuss that over the course of this year to get into place and move forward for the next 5 years. So,
and if we can have the corresponding calendar that we made for expenditures along with that, then, so we can make sure they're matched up correctly to our plan.
Okay. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
The only other thing I would like to see us get a look at is an update on in a discussion on the new boat launch. Just an update for us at the next meeting, because that's all going to be coming together.
Yep.
And what that planning is entailing.
Yep, will do. Perfect.
I would move to adjourn at this time.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thanks, everyone.